My name is Ghostboy259 and I play Timemelters. Long has my soul looked to fill the void that the playing of Co-op Portal 2 has left. It's been many years since I was in high school, playing the whole thing with a classmate in one night, and even to this day I've yet to find another co-op experience quite like it. And I still haven't. Timemelters is not that game. But that doesn't mean that you and a friend shouldn't play Timemelters, because while it won't fill the void, maybe it'll take your mind off of her for a few hours. If you want to watch me and my friend tackle Timemelters, you can check out the video in the description or go to youtube.com/realityescapeplays. If you want to watch me and my friends play games live before they get turned into videos, you can watch at twitch.tv/ghostboy259. And if you want to help support this channel and its efforts to upload every week, or maybe join the Discord to recommend me some games, all the links are at realityescape.ca. And if you want new videos weekly on games you've maybe never heard of, why not subscribe while you're here? This video is about Timemelters in co-op mode. There is a single player mode, but I haven't played it, and I highly recommend that you play this with a friend if you're able. The campaigns aren't different, it's the exact same story, the same levels, it's just a little bit different. And because they're the same thing, trust me, you don't want to waste a vibe like this on single player. It's the only thing I play that has that Portal 2/We Were Here vibe. You'll have to do a lot of planning and communicating, and sometimes it'll hurt your brain a bit, and maybe you'll want to strangle your partner a few times, but that's what we're all looking for out of games, isn't it? You also only need one copy of the game, as they have a friendship pass system that you can get for free, and I think that is super cool. I wish more co-op games did this, and I was not aware of this, unfortunately, so hopefully if you decide to play this game, you don't make the same mistake. There is a story to this game. Roughly, it starts with one character being burned at the stake for being accused of being a witch when her brother comes to save her, but then there's another girl who actually is a witch, and her soul goes into you and your brother, and it gives you both powers, and you need to stop Doomsday or something, and also free her. I'm gonna be honest, the story of the game is not only weak, but there is so much dialogue in between levels. Legitimately, the ending of the game has like 15 to 20 minutes of just straight dialogue, and it is so much, and most of it is needless, and there's so many names and details that are hard to keep track of, and the dialogue just drags on forever. For a game that has such engaging gameplay that forces conversation between two people, it probably has an hour's worth of reading in a 12-hour experience, which you just don't want to do when you're hanging out with somebody. Now granted, maybe it's different single player, maybe I would have enjoyed it more on my own, but the dialogue and overall story just unfortunately did not capture me at all. There are some nice story beats to it, and there's some twists and turns that were fine, but emotionally my investment came from playing with my friend more than these characters and their journey. I still think the game needs some sort of story, because this isn't a Portal 2 where the whole game is just, hey, do what I tell you to do, but it's always going to be a lot harder to sell people on a story this in-depth when there's a voice call and conversation going on. And this isn't a unique thing to Timemelters either, but a lot of co-op games in general. Very rarely, not to say it'll never happen, but rarely will your co-op players want to sit still for an extended period of time and just read. The gameplay, on the other hand, could not be more opposite of an experience. It is just oozing with potential and fun strategy, and while there are some frustrating moments, it's all within the realm of the game. And there's so much more room to play around with this, and with a sequel being teased, I really hope there's a lot more to come. Timemelters is a tower defense game at its core. You and your friend, if you're playing with one, which you should, will have to protect some sort of spot or creature or person. You'll have the ability to go up in the sky in God view, which you can also place towers in. You'll also have to be out in the field and attacking mobs as they come at you, whether to do damage or draw aggro, and amongst all the abilities you have, which we'll cover in a moment, that's not even the whole story. The big plot twist of this game is the time travel mechanic. Depending on the level, you will have timelines, sometimes 2, sometimes 3, depends on what the game wants to give you. And once a timeline is finished, either what you're meant to protect dies or you die, you can start up a second timeline. Your echo will go around and repeat all of the same actions, and now you can add on top of it. This adds such complexity to the game, and in no other words has been executed brilliantly. You can have your first run just go and collect all the orbs that you need to use abilities, but if you use abilities then they start on cooldown for the second time, and if you accidentally aggro an enemy that was being attacked or killed in the first timeline, then you can change everything, but your original copy stays true to its motions. This means your echo could accidentally become useless, attacking enemies that aren't there, and it does mean you occasionally just have to stand around and wait for your echo to finish a good chunk of what they were doing before you proceed with what you want to do, but I'm not really sure there's another way around that. When you get later on in the game and you have 2 versions of yourself running around and you're trying to maximize where you can be, it is an immense amount to juggle, and then factor in your partner also has 2 versions of them and you're trying not to mingle too much. It is a fantastic game to just sit and converse with your partner for 15 minutes to discuss potential strategies, only for you to try them and realize that it won't work within the first few seconds. There's very few levels, if any at all outside the first few, that you can go in without a solid plan, and you have to do some attempts where you're just learning at first. And sometimes you'll explain your whole plan only for your partner to understand none of it, because it just is a little complex. One thing about the level design that I noticed is that the freedom the game gives you really goes back and forth. There are some levels where it feels like there are multiple ways to accomplish things. As long as you play competently, you'll be fine. Just survive and use whatever you want. But then there are other levels where, at least from my experience, I can't possibly imagine them being done any other way than the way that we did them. The game will really force random mechanics on you based on your environment. Now, fundamentally, while a tad annoying, this isn't so bad, but what makes it a bigger problem is that the game design of the game kind of disagrees with this. For example, you have a skill tree, and you can level up certain abilities. If you infuse this tree with power, it normally kills 5 enemies, but if you upgrade it in your skill tree, you can kill 8 enemies. And that's cool because you can customize your build a little bit. My friend mostly focused on the trees where I didn't. I focused on these demon turrets. But then the game occasionally has moments where it splits you and your partner up, and the level design is not symmetrical. Now, it shouldn't be, but here's the problem. I had invested most of my power-ups into these tower demons. My friend did most of his into the trees. But at one point we got split up where all he could use was tower demons and all I could use were trees. And it's more frustrating than challenging. Maybe this is just a me thing, but if your way of challenging the player is to take mechanics that they already had away from them, then I don't really think you're challenging your player, but just needlessly restricting them and forcing them into a solution. While it doesn't happen too often in this game, they were easily the more frustrating parts because it gave you the taste of freedom, and then to challenge you, took it away. The abilities themselves are pretty interesting. There's 2 different orbs you'll need to collect on maps if you want to use them, and they're pretty limited, and abilities are decently costly. And in some maps you'll have one of your echoes who just goes around to collect as many orbs as they can so your later ones have them. There are some cooldown ones that don't take any orbs, this little knockback one which can save you in the right space, and a mechanic that I really think kicks up the game to a whole different level, which is this spirit ability. During a level, you can place a spirit down, and this acts as a teleport. At any point during the battle, you can teleport back to this spirit's location, again on cooldown. And the game actually gives you the option to wait until you've been killed or are about to be killed to teleport back here. Essentially working as a checkmark. Your enemies will still be in the same spot, but you will be into a safer area. The spirit also persists through timelines, meaning if you get far enough with your first echo, place a spirit down, and then the timeline resets, you can instantly teleport to where your spirit is. This is such a fantastic mechanic to add on top of an already mind-bending game. It is something they absolutely did not need to do, but it kicks it up a whole new level, and it opens up the door for so many more strategies and avenues of thinking. It's a teleport, but with the perfect amount of limitations. And so if you want to send your first Echo to just collect orbs and set a teleport in an optimal spot, you can do that if you think you have the timing and abilities to pull it off. But it really adds this beautiful complexity to everything. It really gives you so many different ideas that you can play with when you're thinking about how to approach these levels. There's a good variety of levels. Sometimes it's getting to a location, sometimes it's protecting someone or something, sometimes it's just holding off waves. There's a few that are timing specific where you have to hit enemies in succession all within a short time period, which again is another crazy mind-bending type of puzzle where you have to try to line up with your echoes. It's never going to be as easy as just laying towers either. You'll have to be quite active with your shooting abilities, and I actually upgraded mine quite a bit because of this. There's another really cool ability where you can increase damage temporarily, but both you and your partner have to be doing it at the same time to pull it off. And if you're in an earlier timeline, then you're going to want to try to time it up with when your later versions of you will need it. There's this death beam, but it's very limited. There's a ball that you can summon which increases damage, but it permanently moves forward, meaning you might have to time it again with your future timeline so that your future timeline can use it as well as your past timeline. And it's just so crazy the things that were thought of. A mechanic that seems kind of annoying in a normal game, like having to time up when you get your damage boost, suddenly becomes a huge strategic point. There's also this wolf one where you transform and run past everyone, but almost every time this one came into use, it's because the game was clearly telling us there was nothing else to do but this. I'm neither here nor there on it. I understand why it's there, but if you only have one ability that costs 1 point and they only give you 1 point, it's kind of obvious what they want you to do. Now, I obviously didn't play Timemelters by myself. I played it with my friend of almost 22 years, Mr. Gundam Fang, and he's not a YouTuber at all, but I asked him if he would summarize his thoughts in a little 1-minute audio, and I'm going to do that going forward anytime I do co-op games with friends, so here's what he had to say.
A delightful game that played around with tower defense and real-time strategy in a way that felt innovative. Having to manage the same defense over multiple timelines was very engaging. Then having to devise multi-layer plans alongside a teammate and then not mess yourselves up on the second or third run made me feel like a genius when we pulled it all together. The story was a bit too much for its own good. The major beats were interesting, but there was too much detail padding the time in between. On the gameplay side, the only thing I wished for was more. I truly hope we get to see more in the future. It feels like there is a lot of room for exploration of the gameplay here.
The ending of Timemelters felt like a proper finale in terms of gameplay, which of course was then followed by way too much dialogue. The game ends on a cliffhanger, which even though I wasn't fully paying attention to the story by this point because I was just wanting to move past it, I was still a little bit annoyed that it left on a cliffhanger despite the game technically already being called Tome 1. When you first start the game, it's not necessarily clear if Tome 1 is like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, or if it's the entirety of the first game. Also, the final loading screen has this little subtitle that says, "If you give good reviews, we'll certainly make a Tome 2, winky face." And man, I'm probably taking this way too strong. I'll admit it, this is probably an overreaction, but that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I'm sure it's meant to be this jokey thing, but it's almost like holding the audience hostage. Like if I'm truthful about the parts I didn't like, they just won't make another. I understand if the first game doesn't succeed, then financially it's harder to justify a sequel, but it just feels like they're going to ditch the entire thing and leave it on a cliffhanger unless I give it a thumbs up, or that they aren't willing to improve and just want to deliver another exact copy of this game because they totally nailed it the first time. I just try to imagine if a AAA game company did something like this, we'd probably roast them for it. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, but I would just leave stuff like this out of your games personally. I don't think it's a good look. There's just something a little bit disrespectful that I put 12 hours into a game and I really enjoyed it, and then I was left with a, well, maybe if you say something nice about us. Timemelters came out in February of 2024, and there's been much radio silence since. The website's current project tab still has a trailer for Timemelters, advertising the story before the mechanics, which I don't know why you would do that. Please tell people about the mechanics of this game because more people should play this game because it's really good, but the story is not a selling point. They have not published any games since. Their last tweets are just advertising the game on sale, and their YouTube channel is just advertisements for Timemelters on new consoles. On the Steam page in February of 2026, they posted, "We're currently hard at work on something new that we can't wait to share more about soon. More details will come out when the time is right." Whether that means it's Timemelters 2 or they're making a pun on Timemelters 1 and not making 2 because not enough people said nice things about them, I can't say for sure. Ultimately, as strongly as I feel about the story, it didn't ruin the experience. I think it kind of ruined the ending a little bit because it was so much, but it just added too much time on an already decently lengthy co-op campaign. But this game goes on sale often enough, sometimes for less than $5, and you should really consider picking it up. Considering you only need one copy to play, you and your friend can split the cost of a coffee, I don't drink coffee, maybe it's less than coffee, I don't know, and have just a wonderful 12-hour puzzle experience together where you will see things like the incredible mind-bending mechanics and the dreadfully long dialogue, but you'll do it together, and I think it's an experience worth going through with someone. So if you do end up checking out this game, please do whatever you can to avoid playing it single player. For now, my name is Ghostboy259, and if you say something nice about me, maybe I'll make another video. And I played Timemelters. Next time, I'll play something else. Thanks for watching.